You know, it's kind of funny, Reese. You want to talk about old school here, and that's another reason why I want to go down this wormhole with you here, was The Last Dance, and how many people just got so much of a kick out of seeing the old school sports centers from back in the day. And it caused me to think that, I was just telling the guys here that the first guy I did multiple sports centers in a week with was you. They teamed us up quite a bit in my first year that I was there, and it was a total blast. It was an absolute total blast back in 1986. And I'm wondering what you felt watching all these old school Sports Center highlights show up over the last several weeks here.
It's sort of remarkable, I think, Rich, how much time has passed, but I also think it's pretty remarkable at the draw that you feel to it. And I don't think it's just because you and I were fortunate enough to be part of it. I think it was such a part of the way that Dynasty particularly was shared with sports fans that it became a little tiny part of it. I mean, it's not as important as, all of the things that actually happened with the Bulls, but there were people outside of Chicago. That was the way that they connected with them throughout the season. And to be able to see all of us back in our much younger days that were at least part of chronicling that iconic run in maybe the greatest dynasty in modern NBA. I understand the Celtics won more and all of that, but during that time to have the transcendent star and the transcendent team and to be part of chronicling that on what was the ultimate place to get highlights and information at the time is a kick to be able to see it and watch it and to watch it replay in your head and remember things about it. Like I was the host of the NBA on ESPN radio for the finals in 97 because I was doing NBA Tonight by then.
Yes, the two. I love it. By the way,
Rockery and Quinn Buckner and I were the pregame host, and Brent and Dr. Jack called the game on ESPN radio. And the flu game or the poisoned pizza game or the bad pizza game or the too many cigars game or whatever it was that made Michael sick, we were in our pregame show, and Quinn had some, because of his friendship with Michael, had some access back there and off the air. He was like, Reese, I don't think he's going to be able to go. And I'm like, you're crazy. There's no way he won't play. And he goes, he said, you don't see him right now. Quinn's like, I'm not sure the man can lift his head off the table. And it was something to be at least a small part of, and certainly brings back a lot of great memories.
Were you there, or were you stationed in Bristol?
No, I was there. We were in Salt Lake City for it, and the Jazz probably should have been up in that series 3-1 because they sort of blew game one in Chicago, and they had won the first two in Salt Lake City, and that's part of the lore of Michael's performance, I think, was that series easily could have been lost and perhaps should have been on the brink of being lost even before that game.
Yeah, Dr. Jack Ramsey was one of the greatest human beings I have ever come across. And, to be in the middle of all that, Reese, that's really, I did not know that or recall that was your assignment back in the day. I was fort holding, back in Bristol, but you were out there. You were with the guys and in the middle of all that.
Yeah, it was really, really remarkable thing. It was I just a few days ago wrote a foreword for a colleague's book, and that was about the time they moved me to the car racing show. And I mentioned in there that I had a gig that I was really enjoying because I love football and basketball, obviously, and to be part of the NBA and be for that assignment, coming off that assignment of Dan was out there covering it for SportsCenter, and and having Brent be the play-by-play guy on radio, so spending a lot of time with him for the first time in my career.
Come on,
it was one of those epiphany moments that you have in realizing that this is a really cool opportunity you've been blessed with. Is when we were headed back to Chicago for Game 6, Brent and I were sharing a cab, and sort of we chatted a little, and then we were just sort of sitting there in silence. You're looking at it out at the Wasatch Mountains, and I sort of turned the other way, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm in the backseat of a cab with Brett Musburger. How cool is that? So it was like one of those moments you're kind of going through doing your job and not allowing yourself to be affected like that. That in that moment was pretty cool.
Who paid for it and expensed it, Reese? You were Brent. Do you remember?
Oh, I did for sure. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't remember.
I figured I'd ask. So the car show that you did was that RPM 2 night? Was that RPM 2 night?
Yeah.
I remember that one.
RPM 2 night again. And when they called and asked me to move, Rich, I told them, I said, look, if you guys think, hey, let's get the Southern guy to do the car racing show, I said, you got the wrong dude.
Well, here's the deal.
But I'll learn it. And so that's what I had to do. I had to learn it. I certainly didn't know it.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.